The following is a presentation of Play Flash Sports Properties and Michigan State Sports Properties.
We hit it.
We there.
We here.
No theme music, but we're gonna go. Welcome. And for all my friends in the cheap seats in the back, welcome to This is Sparta MSU. I am Jehuu Caulcrick alongside Otis Wiley and Big Stray, Jason Strayhorn. Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, June 15th. We appreciate you guys joining in. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button below. If this is your first time listening, the live chat is where all the action's at. It's a family affair. Jump in the live chat. Make sure you hit that like button. Drop your pancakes. Fellas, what's happening?
What's happening? That's what's happening, baby.
What's happening, baby?
What's happening? Hey, man. Hey, I appreciate that. That looks good. That was good, too, with about 30 seconds notice, you know what I mean? But we got to do what we can do with the cards that we're dealt. I'm coming right now back from Columbus, Ohio. Had a little situation down there with Caden, who was on the show last week, or 2 days ago, and Cody, who are rolling back with me right now. But, hey, nothing stops this show. Guys, I'm glad to be here. Otis, how about you?
Oh, man, it's Thursday. You know, it's one more day to the Good Friday, man. But been good. You know, just kind of get ready to for the weekend, which ain't no plans, but you know how it is. So yeah. I know you've been traveling on the road and going crazy with the boys, getting them to all the Midwest schools. So, you know, appreciate you and your sacrifice, man. Driving. Yeah. He's parked, so he's safe. He's hands-free. He's parked. So just anybody out there following, you know, he's not driving in and doing the show tonight.
The road show. But that's the beauty about playing sports and playing football. You can adapt to anything. This is like sudden change right now. You know, the defense was out there for a long drive to get a turnover. You know, the offense is on the field and bink, an interception or a fumble, and hey, they have to be back out there. That's oh, did you hate that?
That's right. Man. We practice that. That's situational football. You got to know.
Sudden change, yeah. And you got to sprint out there. It's like, why are we sprinting out there? You know, change possession. You got time, right?
Yeah, but I think is it? But like, so yeah, that's a good question. You have time, but is it that in that sudden change training? Is it a thing like you sprint out there to make it look like, hey, we're good, we're ready for this?
I mean, yeah. But kind of like, you know, you just got set down on the bench and got the good Kool-Aid Gatorade. You
right.
There, you know, drenching, and all of a sudden it's like,
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you hear the crowd go, oh, you be like, oh, man. and then you know the worst is when you're running out there and then there's one of the offensive players like, come on guys, get the ball back for us. It's like like, you dirty mother. It's always those who are like slapping hands. He's like, all right, man, we'll try our best to get it done.
That is.
I think that body language is important, though, because, you know, as an offensive guy, when we go on the field after getting a turnover, if we see the defense looking pissed off because their offense just gave the ball up and their body language is bad, we're salivating. We're going to kill you then. So you know that, you know, you need to be out there with that good energy, high energy, like you're excited that you get a chance to get the ball back yourselves or else it's curtains. But that's part of life, man. You got to play and roll with the punches, right? Chew?
Hey, absolutely. You have to roll with the punches. So let's roll into the show here, guys. You know, yesterday, you know, just going through the whole Twitter machine and something popped up and, you know, we shot it along to each other. And it's the USA Today released the top 25 revenue earning college football programs. And, you know, in that top 25, Michigan State is number 12 in that top 25. And something that also really surprised me, I don't know how it caught you guys, is 8 out of the 25 schools in there were Big Ten schools. What is that? What says you, Otis?
Oh, what says me? I don't know. You know, when you pull up the article and you read it, and then you're like, all right, let me go. I'm gonna read some of the top, but let me just go down to like the ranking.
Right.
And I was like, I just want to see us on there, right? So you roll scrolling like, oh, we're 12. I think it sells a lot to, I guess, the entire athletic department, right? Like we talk about the wins bringing a lot of revenue, but it looks good and it feels good that you're on that list post COVID, because everything had to get pushed to a halt, and you got to refund, or you try to keep the money, trying to move the money. And from this standpoint, I think there's nowhere else to go but up, right? Like being on this list shows that we're in the top programs, in respectable programs at that. And just know, like, football turns all the way up and has success. It trickled down effect to every area of the athletic department when the football program is winning and winning the right way. So I enjoyed looking and reading those statistics, because clearly I'm in a revenue generating role as my job. And so that just gives me a sense of not security, but more so just confidence that we're doing the right things in the right way.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And Jason, Otis hit on it. We have nowhere to go but up. But think about this: alcohol sales now going to be coming, to the stadium, to Michigan State. Currently, right now, Michigan State, Michigan, and Nebraska are the only 3 teams in the Big Ten that do not allow alcohol. So, how do you think this is going to impact, the revenue stream here, Stray, and to you too, Otis?
Well, before Stray says something, this is still like it's still a part. Like, it's great. Next step, there's still one more. So I just want to calm us down, because everyone's like, we doing it. No, calm down. We still got some things to work out, but it is a next step in the right direction versus the wrong direction. So go ahead, Stray. Your thoughts.
Look, when you see 8 Big Ten teams on this list, I mean, I want to be very clear. I know that a lot of times we are on this show, we're talking about, hey, we need to do better at Michigan State because of what's going on in the SEC and all that. But let's be very, very, very clear about this. The Big Ten is in the haves, not the have-nots. And Michigan State is in the upper tier of the Big Ten. And you can see that in the revenue that Michigan State is generating, being number 12 on that list. Michigan State and the rest of the Big Ten schools, when you think about the conference realignment that's happening and the expansion that's happening, it's primarily in the SEC and the Big Ten. Those are the 2 conferences. If there is to be a mega conference that would someday maybe break away or something, ultimately it will be the Big Ten in that, along with the SEC. There's going to be there's no threat, in my opinion, or factually, that the Big Ten in some way is hurting for money. That's I think they had an $8 billion deal by CBS. That tells you a lot about what the Big Ten can generate. And people, there's a lot of eyeballs. The fact that the Big Ten now has expanded from the East Coast all the way from Maryland and Rutgers all the way over to California with USC and UCLA. That's all about eyeballs, rooftops. That's how the media folks look at it. They look at how many people, the population in the states that the Big Ten is in, and look at the stadiums. There's not many schools around the United States that fill up 70 to 110,000 seat stadiums on a regular week in and week out basis. And the Big Ten is going to be strong for a long time. And I'm excited about it. It's good to see that ranking. Michigan State being 12 right now, and hopefully they can continue to rise as we continue to get better on the field, which will bring more revenue. And, hopefully alcohol does get passed at some point, and Otis and everybody on this show can be very, very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's real, you're talking about, Big Ten, expanding, to Rutgers and Maryland and all those different. And now it's going to be, we're going to, in 2024, we're going to see the first real big expansion out west. And there's going to be more to come with UCLA and USC joining. So, a couple weeks or a couple days ago, the schedules came out, the future schedules came out for the 2024 and 2025 future schedules came out. And what we noticed was a glaring for the Spartans. There was none of those, there's no UCLA, there's no USC, in that schedule for 2024. In 2025, you know, we host UCLA and then we go to USC. But what do you guys think, you know, Michigan State not being in, you know, with those guys in the first year? Is it a lack of production of the, you know, the down season that we had? They just feel like it wasn't going to be a marquee game. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Otis?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, great question. I honestly think it's all about media, all about TV right now from that standpoint of just how the matchups play with obviously other conferences and premier primetime games. If you think about it, I mean, we're playing Washington, so we're having this Pac-12 kind of feel right now for this season and next season. I honestly think it's great for us to kind of see how it all fits in this, you know, for next season. But like, I get it. We're setting our schedules ahead of time, which is always good. But like, be where we are right now. Let's take care of this season and prepare for knowing that it's going to get tougher on the road and obviously in the competition in the conference. It's like let's play ball. Let's do it right this season to prepare for next season. And having a strong year, knowing that I absolutely have to bring in the Bruins and obviously the Trojans. So I don't know. I'm indifferent from a standpoint of I'm actually glad we're not playing them right out the bat. Not because of the program success and lack of season and wins and losses, just from a logistics and geographical standpoint, I think it's just good for us to not be included for that first time next season.
Yeah. So, Stray, to you, do you see any disrespect in that?
Slightly, but here's the thing about that. You know, they're going to try to get the best matchups for TV ratings right away to get those eyeballs on those games right away. But here's the thing. What also goes away is divisions in 2024. No more divisions. So it's not going to be an East versus West situation. The best two teams in the Big Ten will be in Indianapolis or wherever the Big Ten championship game will be held. I'm not sure. Usually it's in Lucas Oil down in Indianapolis. So this is an opportunity. This isn't I wouldn't take this as a slight and say, oh man, let's scrap and wait till 2025. You absolutely have an opportunity right here to be in the Big Ten championship game without having to play USC and UCLA. That's really how you look at it. So it doesn't matter in the game of football, the game of life, you control what you can control. We can't control the schedule. It is what it is. So Michigan State has an opportunity to be one of the two to be in that discussion. And then also, guys, the playoff does expand to 12 teams in 2024 as well. So a lot of things, good things on the horizon for the Spartans if we can continue to recruit and continue to gel and push this team forward to where, you know, Michigan State has been in recent history and where Mel Tucker wants to take this program.
Yeah, you know, those are all, you know, good and key points there. And, you know, when you say
I'm waiting on you to be like devil's advocate, like it's an absolute snub. I'm waiting on that. No,
I took a, you know, I thought about it at first, and you know, Stray, you know, hit a good point on, you know, right in there. Say you play who's on the schedule, and to your point on when we talked about, you know, where the game's being played, Otis, you said, you know, we can play in a Meyer parking lot, we can play, you know, wherever. You know, that's at the end of the day, we have to do what we have to do. But also, too, if we want to get these marquee games, we have to win football games. It's that simple. If we want to be the ones prime time all the time, we have to win games. If we want to be, you know, the first to you know, play USC, get a crack at them, get a crack at UCLA, all that blends the glamour and the Hollywood lights and everything like that, we have to win football games and position ourselves in that to do so. So, you know, let's, you know, talking to this, and we have a special guest that's going to join us, you know, right now. Jesse Simonton. He is a national college football columnist at On3. Jesse, you know, he's a guy he was born in the South, former beat writer covering the Florida Gators, the Tennessee Volunteers, worked for the Miami Herald, SEC Country, and VolQuest.com, among others. Jesse, welcome to This is Sparta MSU.
Welcome, boys. Thanks for having me. Good to talk to some Michigan State faithful. My mom started her master's degree up in East Lansing, so I got a little bit of green in my family, just a little bit. So
there you go.
I love it.
That is awesome. You know, you're down in you know, SEC country and everything like that, and you know, the schedule and everything, you know, with the realignment, people joining, you know, from, you know, like Oklahoma is going to be coming to SEC, but in the Big Ten country here with USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, what impact do you think that, you know, brings to the conference?
Well, kind of listening to you guys talk for a few minutes before I jumped in on here. I mean, I think you guys kind of touched on the subject that this only will kind of help the Big Ten financially, and they're in a position of strength as is, and now this just makes them, along with the SEC, you know, two of the preeminent conferences in the sport. And so the SEC is choosing to kind of go by it a little bit differently. They kind of want to maintain that geographical footprint where every kind of state touches each other still. But the Big Ten saying, hey, you know, and Kevin Warren started it, and I think the next commission is going to continue it, that we want to be a coast-to-coast conference. And so, you know, you got Rutgers on one end, you got USC and UCLA on the other. I think ultimately we're probably a couple of years down the road from this happening, but I think ultimately it makes sense for the Big Ten to kind of continue to expand out west, whether that is adding an Oregon and Washington so they can have kind of an even deeper footprint out there. And then, you know, just this week we kind of heard both the SEC and the Big Ten are interested still in North Carolina, Virginia, those types of schools, because, again, we know what this is. This comes down to TV money, finances, and how many homes can you put this Big Ten network and these, you know, football games in. And so those are two big markets, the Virginia, D.C. market, the North Carolina, Charlotte market. So I think it's a huge move for the conference. I'm excited about the schedule in 24, 25. I know, again, Michigan State's not playing one of those two teams out west. Their schedule's still going to be just as hard with Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State still on the slate. So big things happening across college football. It's an exciting time to be covering the sport.
Hey, Jesse.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Go ahead.
Yeah, great joining us tonight. You could be anywhere else, but you're spending some time with us, so we appreciate it, man.
No problem.
You know, from a standpoint of, we talked about, a lot of people are thinking about, when this was announced, you know, they're thinking about, yes, the big revenue generating sports, football, basketball, you know, from a logistics standpoint, traveling all across the country to play. Yeah, that's big, fine and dandy, but the trickle down effect to the other sports that you have to truly spend a lot of time to go out there and play USC, UCLA. And we talk about in your article that you wrote was like, the Flex Protect Plus is good. Like that whole system of, we're not going to put any parameters on the divisions just yet, but we're going to allow it to kind of grow, right? We're allowing it to, we're going to start it. And then, you know, if it makes sense, we'll rebrand it. But, you know, you mentioned that the Big Ten is not good in the kind of rebranding names of the divisions, where me and Choo Choo were in the legends and leaders. And then you got the West and East. It was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? But, you know, what is it going to do to the other sports as we have to figure out just travel budgets and getting over and making sure everyone's playing each other in the other sports?
Well, I think that's kind of the matzo ball kind of hanging out there for all these conferences that are continuing to look at expansion and realignment. For football and basketball, it makes sense that they're doing these models with flexibility in mind. Again, there's no reason to tie yourselves into faux rivalries. Let these things happen organically. But for a sport like gymnastics or a sport like, you know, women's basketball or baseball, I think there's going to be some complications and some growing pains for kind of all parties involved, because, again, you're talking about logistical nightmares in terms of some of these scheduling. I think that's why ultimately I think it just behooves the Big Ten, if they really want to be this kind of coast-to-coast league, to grab two of the other preeminent programs out there in Washington and Oregon, so at least you do have kind of a deeper footprint. So say you're playing a baseball series or whatever, they can go play back-to-back out there, and, you know, you're not coming home. I do think, you know, to kind of spin this back to football, it makes sense that they're basically saying, all right, every school, if you're going to LA, you just go once a season. So you're not going out there twice. The LA schools are going to have to obviously kind of huff it more to kind of come to the Midwest a whole lot more. But that's kind of the pennies they pay for getting, you know, the greater piece of the pie that they weren't going to have access to in the Pac-12. So again, flexibility, I think, is kind of the name of the game here. Big Ten, not great at branding, but the SEC could take note on the way they did their 9-game schedule and not pigeonholing themselves into kind of, trying to create rivalries that just don't exist.
Well, that's a good. I was like, which teams the rivalry that don't exist? Give us a full example, because people following. What are those teams that they try to create something but just didn't work out?
In the SEC or
SEC, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that, a South Carolina fan thinks that Georgia's like their biggest rival, and Georgia's will shrug their shoulders at South Carolina. Tennessee, Tennessee has probably more rivals than anyone, quote unquote, in the SEC because their storied nature and how long that program's been around. But Vol fans care much more about the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world than they do Kentucky, whereas Kentucky, if they went into a room and it was a blind vote of who is your number one rival, they would vote Tennessee because of the beer barrel and the fact that they'd played 100 times. So, again, I think what the Big Ten did was right. Like Penn State said, you know what, we don't really have any rivals. Even though we've been in the league for a long time, our only rival is we really just don't want to play Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State every year. So just give us 1 or 2 of them instead of 3, and we're fine. And the Big Ten was like, okay. But Iowa was like, we want to play 3 teams every year. And the Big Ten was like, okay. And so I just think that makes sense.
Definitely.
That's a great point. And you coming from the SEC, you've seen rabid fan bases up close and personal, writing for the Volunteers, as you said, with Tennessee. Looking at the expansion of the Big Ten, you just touched on the potential for for the Big Ten to bring in Oregon and Washington, and you talked about the D.C. market as well as the Carolinas. Is there any talk out there that you've been hearing as a national columnist about Florida? So I've heard rumblings of schools like Miami and Florida State being somebody that's in the purview of the Big Ten as well.
Yeah, I'm certainly touched in on realignment stuff. I think the ACC is kind of complicated because of their grant of rights deals. It's well documented that they can't get out of there until 2036 or, a long time away. And so right now they're talking about doing some revenue sharing. If I'm a Boston College or Wake Forest, I don't know why I would give up even a cent of my piece of the pie when these teams are just going to leave the first chance they can anyways. But I actually think that Florida State and Miami maybe. Florida State would be a little bit of an odd fit, I think, in the Big Ten because it doesn't kind of meet some of the academic stuff that kind of the conference, would prefer to kind of uphold. That's why, again, I think North Carolina, Virginia, those sorts of schools make more sense from the ACC, not only because of the markets, but because of the academic prestige they come with. Miami, a private school, it is a little bit better. So I could see that fit potentially. I think we all agree that at some point, may not be in 10 years, maybe it's in 20 years, but there's going to be kind of the next seismic shift in realignment. It's going to be just 2 superpower conferences. I do think that's where we're going, ultimately in college football.
Yeah, and that's a good point there that you hit on. You just said that 2 super conference, and I know. Last question before we let you go. Once again, appreciate you joining us here. This is Jesse from On3, national columnist, joining us here on This is Sparta MSU. But before you go, we talked about Big Ten reaching coast to coast, and finding different teams, the Washington, Oregons, and everything like that. And you just hit on a little bit. Do you see realistically? Super conferences, the Big Ten, having, going kind of splitting their equator line, in the United States, everything, north,
the Mason-Dixon
school,
the Mason-Dixon
equator line down below is SEC school. Do you see those 2 and then the ACC somewhere floating around because they're locked into that deal for until 2036?
Well, I think if the super conferences ultimately do come to fruition, which I think we're at least going down that path, The powerhouse ACC programs, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, those schools will be involved in what I would deem maybe like, I'm thinking like 40 teams, 35 teams. And so when you're talking like that, you're looking at almost more like the NFL, AFC, NFC. It's not even necessarily Big Ten, SEC. It's going to be like, again, maybe the Big Ten doesn't need to be involved in the naming rights, but we'll certainly take y'all's 14 teams because of the quality of those teams. But it's just gonna be the top 30-ish or so programs, I think, in the country, kind of splitting off and doing their own thing. I just think that's ultimately the way it has. So whether it's a Mason-Dixon line or if it's just you want to cut it by two AFC, NFC, however you want to name it, I think that's the path that we're heading down.
All right. Once again, this is Jesse with On3. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. We'd love to have you come back again. Maybe when we get closer to the season, get back and talk some, season and talk about the conferences, talk about, scheduling and everything like that. And, get your take on, who do you think will be the national champ this year? But we'd love to see you come back and welcome to Spartan Nation. And thank you for joining us on This is Sparta MSU.
Appreciate you having me, guys. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Appreciate you.
Yeah, guys, that's what we talk about. It's a lot of changes coming in. We have to pull resources from all over the place to try to figure this thing out.
Yeah, that was good. You got to do it. I think there's so much news happening and there's no education. So everyone's kind of taking the narrative, right? Like, this is like beer sales, everyone's like news. And then you get the good news and you spread it, but you then start to figure out there's different misinformation. But just to hear him, how it's been set up and how we're trending, these guys are in it all the time and understanding that they have sources that, they can't write articles without good sources too. So from a standpoint of bringing in the leaders or the thought industry leaders in their field to help us and help Spartan Nation, but any of our followers understand more about what's happening, it's a good thing. So that was great to bring Jesse on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, remember on Tuesday when we were talking, everyone's, the sky's falling. Michigan State doesn't have any commits. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Where are we? Well, we have 2 commits, and we have Corey Robinson from 247 Sports will be joining us after this very special message from our friends at IHOP.
When you're smiling. iHoppy Hour, starting at $6 at 3 p.m. Only from IHOP. Download the app and join the rewards program today.
All right, now I had IHOP this morning, so I had them at bourbon bacon, eggs Benedict again. Was it good? So laughing again, man. It's like, man, awesome, but definitely
pancakes. I love the pancakes in the chat. Look at them.
Absolutely,
yes.
Dropping them.
So we talk about commercials, we talk about marketing, we talk about brand placements. Like you see all these commercials for so long, you're like, I'm about to go give me some IHOP, and then that's how we do it, right? So if you're hungry at breakfast time, you better go to your local IHOP and get some good meal for breakfast. Or I got to try those burgers too. So
yeah, guys, we talked about it on Tuesday when we were out having dinner for Miss Alicia's birthday, and we're talking. We have 14 defensive backs on in that defensive back room right now. They're gonna have to expand, put more chairs in, get more iPads for the defensive backs there.
They got a huge meeting room right now. They got a huge meeting room, so they got room.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, bringing in, a new defensive backs coach to, be paired along with Coach Barnett there. But, we talked about it, on Tuesday that, Michigan State hadn't seen the commitments coming in. And, we're in about our 3rd week in this June now about, these official visits rolling through and official, unofficial visits, coming through. And we picked up in the last couple of days, we picked up 2 recruits and 2 more defensive backs. We have Camren Campbell out from Florida, cornerback. He said he's 1,000% committed to Michigan State. Go Green. Guys, thoughts?
I mean,
And
also adding in Reggie Powers and
also too, we have safety from Ohio. They say Ohio boys can ball. See, Camren's 1,000%, Reggie's 100% committed. Hashtag Spartan Dawgs. So he is in these graphics. I mean, these graphics are money that these kids make these days.
I know. Oh,
Kids
man.
ain't making them.
I feel like we need to recreate like ours and see what we would do.
Oh my God.
No, I think this is good.
Black and white pictures. You're trying to be
Black
funny,
and white.
I know.
Right. I think this is a good two pickups from commitments. But I feel like we've been jaded and like burned so many times with these commitments that it ain't solidified until they sign on the dotted line. But you 1,000% and 100%, like obviously you got to go with 1,000%. He's for sure. He's sure. But let's hope that these guys are sticking to their commitments like old school. But it's good to know that Coach Barnett and as Coach Jim, what's his last name?
You put us all.
Oh, anywho,
Salgado.
Salgado. There we go, Coach Salgado. It's good to show that they're bringing in some talent, right? Like, because at first we're like, where's the depth at? Or, hey, are we too young? Is that why we're bringing in transfer portal kids and DBs with experience? And then we're getting a lot in the in this next class. It just shows that we're on the trail and people. I mean, we're getting guys out of Florida. There's a lot of opportunities to go somewhere else, and they're coming all the way up north. So it's a true testament to Coach Tuck and obviously our defensive staff of getting these guys in here. We got to get the no-fly zone back because if you control the air, we already know we got a run-stopping defense, but if you can control that air, we'll be dangerous.
Yeah, that's a great point right there. I just saw Darren Tatum, who knows a thing or two about the defensive secondary. 5 DBs on the field, all need a reserve, and they do get hurt sometimes. That's absolutely true. They're the 4-2-5 defense that Michigan State runs means 5 defensive backs. So 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. So you can't ever have too many fast guys on your team, and from the defensive standpoint and also special team standpoint. So bringing talent on your team, raising your team speed, it's great. I mean, I just saw the Ohio State team practicing, doing their off the field, whatever OTAs they call them now, like the NFL, and team speed is important, guys. It's extremely important. I've seen a lot of fast guys there. So raising that team speed is a good thing. But, asking us about the recruits, I think is kind of crude when we have a guy like Corey Robinson that's hanging in the wings back here who can tell us the details on each of these players. Are we going to bring him on the show?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
What's going on, Corey?
Corey Robinson from 247 Sports joins the show.
How you guys doing?
Just Corey,
chilling.
I had a great intro for you, but Stray just took it. I had it laid down. I had some theme music that was going to bring you in and everything. I had, the Ric Flair spotlight.
Now you understand how it feels.
I've never brought a guest in. I've never brought a guest in.
I know. But but I have been interrupted. But go ahead.
Shots fired. Right. Corey, you are I know this is a busy month, man, but talk about, obviously the 2 guys that we just picked up. It's crazy because somebody had just told us on Twitter or socials, like, I don't see all the commitments. What's going on? Are we doing our job? And all of a sudden it's boom, 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 back to back. But talk about Camren Campbell and Reggie Powers.
Yeah, for a minute, like I had to retrain myself on how to write a commitment article. Had been a minute where before, you just have, you just chop it out, pop, and it. So it was a while because Reggie Powers, we'll talk with him first. Alan True, our Midwest guy, called that one. He wanted to do the article with the quote, so he did that one. So my last one, I think, was AJ. No, Alan did AJ Dennis too because he called Asian Connection since they're both Asian. So he did that one. So my last one was Logan Bennett, which was a while ago. So I had to kind of retrain myself on how to do a commitment article again and how to line it up. But we got it done before Camren Campbell announced it. I think we might have been the only site that had those quotes before he announced. But we'll go with him first, just because that's kind of a cool story at the camp yesterday. My colleague Justin Thin and Stephen Brooks, they saw Harlan Barnett celebrating with a phone in his hand, getting excited and everything. And then he brought the phone over to Mel, and Mel started going crazy. So we're like, all right, something happened. And at first I was like, oh, it's probably just Reggie just saying, hey, I'm announcing tonight, even though they knew about it since last weekend. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, no, it's gotta, if they're that excited. So then I kind of realized it's got to be Camren if it was Harlan that got the call, because that was his primary recruiter. So I had reached out to Camren. I said, hey, did you got any more visits coming up? Kind of being coy with it. And he said, no, I don't think I am. And I'm like, did you commit? And he said, yeah. So then we actually talked about how I saw him actually commit on the field and the coach's reaction. So yeah, it's good to kind of get that when that happens at a camp. And then the type of player they're getting, he's out of Tampa, Florida. He's 6'1". I think he's a 180, so he's got to pack on a little bit more weight. But when you turn on the film, he's 4.42 guy, and that's running track. So it's not just, he's saying I ran this. He's actually got the verified times running and track. So it's a legitimate one. And then when you look at his tape, he's got the long arms that you see in DBs now, which is really becoming a trend. And even though he's not that big, he's definitely, he's not one of those defensive backs that's grabbing at the ankles and just trying to, slap it to knock the guy down. He's hitting them high in the chest and stomach area. So once he adds on that extra strength, he's going to become even more physical as a corner. But then you see good instincts from him too. So like he's a good pickup. We got to get him rated on our site, and I think a couple others, because he kind of blew up out of nowhere. Michigan State was his first offer at the end of April, and then I think he had 14 by the time he committed. I think he got 6 of them the day before his Michigan State official, because everybody saw he was going there. So they turned on the film and they're like, oh man, this kid can play. So I think he'll be a high 3-star once we finally get to the point. But he's a guy that could make a run at that 4-star status with a strong senior year. So he was definitely a big pickup.
Corey, talk about once you make the commitment and that is actually public news, right? Like you made the commitment, and the amount of aggressiveness that other schools are coming at kids now. Talk about kind of the mental journey that the student athletes are now having to kind of go through and understand, like, I want to be committed, but people are now going to start bringing in bigger, shinier things. But like, what is going through, these guys' mind once they make the commitment, and what they're going to be enduring or have to endure until they sign on the dotted line?
Yeah, I think it's all different, like how you handle it. There's certain guys that just, they don't respond, So if you really want to be committed and you're 100% or 1,000%, then maybe you just don't respond to those texts. And I think Michigan State's got some guys in the class that definitely fall in that category. I imagine Reggie Powers and Camren Campbell are probably the same type of players, but we'll find out, because, you can think you know everything about a recruit, but in this era, it's just a different ball game. So, but I think Michigan State should feel good about it. They did it the right way on the visit. So I wouldn't expect it, but in 2023, you can never say never. And then I guess I never touched on Reggie Powers either, where in that first one, he's a physical safety. It's kind of like he kind of reminds me a little bit of Isaiah Lewis, the D'Antonio guy, where he's just a heavy hitter, where he just likes to blow people up. He's physical. He shows good instinct. So I think he's going to be one of those future leaders and kind of the enforcer in the secondary for years to come once he gets here. Very smart pickup there. And even with going back to Campbell, if you turn on his tape, I know Otis, he played defensive back, so you probably, if you watch the tape, there's things you look at with Campbell. You see like him just keeping his eyes on the quarterback and how quickly, once he recognizes the ball is about to come out, how quickly he closes to get interceptions or break the plays up. Definitely stands out with him.
Yeah, so two good guys, that the Spartans are able to secure right now, and hopefully more continues to come. And we're going to continue to see more visits come into campus in the next few weeks. Corey, who should Spartan Nation be keeping an eye out for? Is there any more commits that you feel could be trickling down?
Yeah, I think you got some guys that are coming up with planned decision dates in the end of June, and then early July, and then there's some other guys that they don't have them set, but maybe after they take some of their visits. Anthony Carey, he was here last weekend. I think he's somebody that Michigan State feels really good coming out of that visit. I think he's still going to visit North Carolina this weekend, but I haven't got that totally confirmed with him yet, but Michigan State feels like they're in a good spot there. Jeremiah Beasley, he's a hot button one out of Belleville.
Malik Carr's brother.
Yeah, he was here last weekend, and I guess the rest of people following the recruitment kind of found out what I've been trying to say since the beginning, that Michigan State's not so out of it after all, like some people down the road might have wanted them to believe. So we'll see. I mean, Beasley's there this weekend. They're going to have a lot of their commits there, and they're going to do everything to try and swing it back. But Michigan State's in a good spot with him. Dylan Williams and Mathudi, the other two linebackers from California, they came up on separate weekends, but they're kind of a package duo too. Michigan State blew both of those guys away. Like when I saw them on the list, I'm like, oh yeah, they're good players. We might have a shot, but it's going to be tough. But following those visits, I think Michigan State's really solidified themselves as a legit possibility. Same with Quasi Gilmer, the California wide receiver. I think it's Michigan State and UCLA. He was going to take a few more visits, but now he's just said he's going to take Washington and then be done with it and make a decision. So Michigan State's definitely a name to watch there. And then this weekend is kind of funny because the first 2 weekends I had graduation stuff for my son. He graduated high school, so
nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So the first weekend we had commencement on Sunday, so I handed pretty much everything off to all my colleagues just because I was going to be there for that. And then last weekend, Saturday, we had the open house, so I was still able to catch up with it, but I still had some ties to that. But this weekend, I have absolutely nothing on my calendar, and Michigan State has one official visitor coming up. So this is the one weekend. Yeah, so this is the one weekend that I have nothing on the schedule really, and it's their one light weekend because the other weekends have all been in that 8 to 12, 8 to 10 range for visitors, and this one's down to 1. So that'll be interesting. I guess he'll get a lot of attention. Decker DeGraff, a tight end out of California. I think that one also comes down to Michigan State and Washington for him. So, but then the next weekend will be a big one. But I'm sure I'll be on your show before then, so we can talk about the 23rd, that one. But so it's been kind of crazy. I think there is a lot of good positive vibes coming. I know, Jason, you were on campus with your sons and your wife on her birthday on Tuesday. And we had talked about privately that we've had heard a lot of things about Mel Tucker really like zeroing in, and there's kind of been a change to him where you're seeing him kind of get focused back in. And at the camp yesterday, I probably spent 35, 40 minutes just talking to him. And that's the most comfortable. Oh, my cat's.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Wait. We won't throw Lou.
Hey, look, you won't throw it this time. Even the pets love us.
Yeah. but
Hey,
like,
there's a fan. This is Sparta.
but yeah, with Tucker though, I've never seen him that relaxed in like a public setting like that. He feels like he's more comfortable, and I guess you could touch on it, Jason. Did he seem like more relaxed or more engaged or anything on your guys' visit too, or a different vibe, I guess, came off of him? Or was he kind of the
for
same
sure.
for you?
No, been knowing Mel since 1995, so it's been a while. But yes, I think that the last, couple of years, there was a little bit of there was a shift in the recruiting as we've seen, and now it's come back to where I think everyone's more comfortable in the building, and it shows in the way that the players that are coming in are responding to this. Obviously Michigan State has a lot to offer, but besides Lamborghinis and farm animals or whatever they call them,
Yeah.
right? So it's getting back to the basics and being real with the players. That's the thing that comes through, like my own son saw, and I hear that from other players. What was very interesting to me was what you just talked about when you were at the camp and you saw the reaction, right? Anytime you see a reaction of a staff when they get someone, and that's pure. Just like when you saw Andy Reid when he drafted some dude out of Texas Tech named Mahomes. I didn't know who it was, but the reaction in that war room was like they won the Super Bowl, which they did twice. And then Brad Holmes, like if you think about that, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, this year, watching that war room with the NFL draft when they selected Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, the running back, it was almost like, like he had a game-winning shot in the NBA Finals. When they celebrate like that, when they acquire a player or get a commitment, then you think this kid must be special. And he's not even really on the radar, as you're saying. He didn't have – that was like his first offer, you said, Michigan State back in April? And between April and today, that's only 2 months. He's gone from 0 to how many offers?
14. And most of them are Power 5, so it's not even like – it's not no disrespect to the Charlotte 49ers or some of those teams, it's like they're legitimate offers.
Right. So there's something happening there, and I know we look at numbers, but that's not our job. Like there's people that are literally paid to manage the rosters and all that. That's what all they're focusing on. I know we can say there's 14 DBs. Look, man, these guys get paid a lot of money to follow this stuff, and they're not like doing it by the seat of their pants. So that there's something good happening when you see reactions like that. And now you're starting to see the recruits start to commit. And as you know, Corey, guys, like these things aren't on the whim decisions. These things are planned before they're announced. These guys have really been toiling over, thinking about it. And I think that the way that they're going about it will have less of what Otis talked about, guys reneging and going somewhere else because they see something shinier and all that. Because it's a more quality guy, more quality recruitment all the way around, in my opinion.
That's a very, very good point that you just made there, Stray, talking about that quality. And I was going to ask you that, Corey. Last year we saw, like we all joke about it now, we saw the Lambos, the G-Wagons, the Rolls Royce, the Cane Corsos, the goats, the couches on the Spartan Stadium field. And this year it's more hone in. It's that quality time. I saw a video, Coach Tucker giving each recruit a ride in the slingshot around campus and talking to them a little bit. Do you think that is, we all talk about that quality, and, Stray just said, the glam, the glitz and everything, will fade away. But do you think that's having an advantage, too? And do you think that also, creates that sense of like, more like less pressure and, more, Coach Tucker can be himself, his staff can be themselves?
Yeah, I think that ties into what I was kind of talking about earlier, and Jason confirmed just how the vibes are different. I feel like everything's more real. Like Mel is letting the guard down a little more. Like he's like, you know what? Yeah, we were 5-7 last year, and that's not good enough. But it is what it is. But he knows how to fix it. So I think you're seeing that also go into like the visits, the official visits. I know last year, like we heard, like Michigan State really pushed like for commitments while they're on campus or whatever last year. And that's not to say that they're not, trying to get the kids to commit, because obviously that's their job. But it's more of like, we don't need you to tweet it out now and do this. Go home, sit on it for a minute if you need to. And, we got the graphic ready when you're ready. So, I mean, Reggie Powers, he committed on the visit. So he waited till Wednesday to do it. But, I mean, that was never in question. It was just a matter of, let it sink in, make sure you're doing the right thing. And Camren Campbell, he didn't commit on the visit. He did it where he came home on Sunday, and I think he's talking about Tuesday. He kind of sat down with the family because he got that feeling that he's like, this is where I need to be. So I think getting the commitments like that instead of the pushing for them type where you do it at the spur of the moment, but you don't think it through. So I think that'll help with the success rate overall of holding them.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, this is Corey Robinson joining us on This is Sparta MSU. Corey from 247 Sports, our local This is Sparta expert and insider coming in there. Corey, we look forward to having you, back on. And, like we talk about, hopefully, we can get you locked in for next week, and get your thoughts on this past weekend's visit that's coming in, the tight end from California, and then what's happening, what's in the hopper for next week and everything like that. Corey, appreciate you taking the time for joining us on This is Sparta MSU. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Corey.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, guys. See you guys.
See ya.
All right. Yeah, guys. I mean, look, that was great insight by Corey as always. And, I think that we have to remember Mel Tucker is from Cleveland, man. He ain't from Miami. He's not a flashy guy. He went to Wisconsin. He's from Cleveland. He's a blue collar guy, and that's really what Michigan State is. It's not a flashy school. We're not that. That's not what we're about. We know that kind of stuff sells tickets and it sells, maybe gets clicks, but that's not how we are as a brand. That Spartan helmet. I don't think that the 300, those Spartans, those guys at the Battle of Thermopylae were flashy guys. That was as gritty as they come, right? And it's like one of those things since 1855, we've had to fight and scratch and claw for every inch. And that's the way it's going to be. And we just have to embrace it.
Absolutely. I feel like when you were talking about that, like that scene in 300 when, hey, what's your profession? I just saw it visualized. I'm a blacksmith. I'm a
shoe cobbler.
That's awesome. The amount of times we played that, right, in the stands in the stadium, and then the amount of times Coach D played that movie and team movie time, like it's good to hear.
Actually brought Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's just getting back to basics. Overall,
Absolutely.
You got and it goes back to the fundamentals, blocking and tackling. That's all it comes down to. When you're doing this, and we saw Coach D had success when they kept their nose to the grindstone. They were on the road. They recruited guys with chip on their shoulders, guys that wanted to be here. And to Corey's point, he drew a good point there, saying, last year they were really asking for guys to make commitments, while they were on campus. And sometimes as a young man, 17 years old, 18 years old, that's unfair to a kid, because that pressure that's being there. And Otis, you felt that pressure, you got a dilemma. You got a dilemma. Yeah. It's like, you're either given or we're going to look at somewhere else. That's not fair at times to a 17-year-old kid to be put on the spot. And I think that is why we lost so many people, because they just felt it was the thing to say, and then they could continue to go on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's like, we're not going to chase. Like, we're not going to chase you. Like, we're going to show you who we are, and you got to make the grown-up decision, big boy decision to say, hey, like till you said, Camren Campbell meets with his family and says, I need to be here. Like, this is where I see myself playing 3 to 4 years, right? And so I think that's a true testament from last year. To your point, we're not the G-Wagon school. Like, we're not like showing you like, yeah, it's good. You ain't gonna get that car coming here like, right out the jump. So like, why are we showing you that, right? Like, we gonna be General Motor cars and Ford. Like we gonna get you these cars now, but this is the line. This is the assembly line. This is grit. This is the grit over the mindset of just being gritty and tough. Like we need those guys that's gonna come in and go through brick walls. And like I think we got 2 guys like that, and I'm looking forward to kind of deep diving and getting to know them a little bit more. And I think it's great that we should probably get them on this show to talk about it because they need to know, man. Tuck and staff are doing a different approach in bringing these kids in and showing them that this is who we are. And we already got that from Stray too. So,
Absolutely. And then, with this whole thing, and these kids have to realize, and us as fans, us as former players, we have to all realize and accept it's a process. You got to go through the entire process, and because at the end of the day, you're hopefully making a commitment for the next 4 years of your career. So you have to make the best decision for you. You have to explore all opportunities and possibilities. And I tell these kids, stuff. It's not, don't commit too early. Make sure it's the right field. Make sure it's the right fit for you. We all, you're not proposing 3 times. You want to do it once. But make sure it's the right fit for you.
Without question, man. I agree wholeheartedly. You're not seeing a lot of that around the United States, the country right now. A lot of flash stuff, especially the guys, the programs who are, at the top year in, year out. They're not doing that. You don't need to do that. And I think that Michigan State being true to themselves will win in the end, always, over trying to become something that you aren't. We all know that, right? You don't want to be something. You can't be something that you're not. You just got to be yourself. And I love what Mel's doing right now, guys. It's going to pay dividends in the future, the near future.
Absolutely. Well, guys.
You forgot your transition again.
No. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it. I was going to see if Shay was going to let me wrap it.
I saw you. I was like, man, I'm sitting back waiting. Go ahead, man.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, first we want to thank our guests from the show. We want to thank Jesse from On3, and of course, as always, we want to thank our resident insider Corey Robinson from 247 Sports. For Otis Wiley and Jason Strayhorn, I am Jehuu Caulcrick. Until next time, pound green, pound, and go green.
Go white.
Go white.